Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. Recently on the channel I did a playthrough of Alien Fate of the Nostromo from Ravensburger, and I really enjoyed that game. I thought it did a fantastic job of recreating the theme, and it's a really fun cooperative experience. So by contrast, today I thought I would show you this absolute heap of garbage. This is E.T, the Extra-Terrestrial E.T phone home card game, from the Shuffle series of games published by Cartamundi. It's a cooperative game for 2 to 4 players, plays in about 25 minutes and is recommended for people aged 8 and up, although I wouldn't recommend it for anybody. And that may sound harsh, but honestly very rarely do I find a game that I dislike to the degree that I dislike this game. Before we go any further, I should just point out I picked this game up in a TK Maxx. It was discounted to £6, and I think even at £6 I overpaid. Because I really do think this is a shocker. This is a game that does almost nothing to capture the theme of one of the greatest movies ever made. It has very little artwork that brings out that theme, and no mechanisms that at any point make you feel like you are trying to rescue E.T. It has really bad iconography on the cards, to the point where sometimes it's incredibly difficult to tell two icons apart that do very different things. And it has absolutely appalling rules that keep referring to different decks of cards by different names. Sometimes it refers to the action deck as an action deck, sometimes it refers to the action deck as the agent deck. The rules don't even define when you win. But the biggest sin of all is the rules do not say when you play cards or the order in which you play the cards. And for a card game, that's a pretty big omission. In a moment, I am going to do a playthrough of the game so you can see the game in motion and get a better idea of what I'm talking about here. But really, I have no idea if I'm playing the game exactly correctly. I am just playing it how I have inferred from a very poorly written rule set. But that's enough of my out of context comments. Let's see the game in action. This is the rule sheet that comes with the game. It looks daunting, but it's actually a whole bunch of different languages. The English language rules are just this section here. And at the bottom of the rules, there is a list of the different icons that appear on the different action cards. And you have to look at these and then refer to the key up here to see exactly what your cards will be doing. And these icons are a mess. There are a lot of problems with them. For example, sometimes the icons will show cards of the light blue, and sometimes they will show cards of the dark blue. The icons are actually the same image, it's just the colour that changes. And that means you're manipulating different decks. The light blue deck is your action deck, the dark blue deck is your movie deck. So you need to make sure you're manipulating the correct decks at the correct times. Furthermore, some of the icons have a number, which may be a plus or a minus, and that's not always easy to see if you don't have the best eyesight in the world. And also you have to look carefully at where the arrows are pointing. You will see that sometimes an arrow will be pointing to the bottom of a deck and sometimes it will be pointing to the top of a deck. You really need to be on your toes to make sure you are doing the correct thing with these different icons. Here is the main game board. It is very flimsy and ugly. This is how you will track your progress through the game. It's like a timer that will count down to your ultimate demise, really. We will explain more about that as we do the playthrough. Here's our little wooden meeple. This goes on the starting spot on that card. We then have the E.T board, and this tracks the overall status of our game. There are spaces around the top for placing 6 different coloured agents. You don't want agents turning up because they are hunting E.T. In the centre there is a space for 3 disguise cards. If at any point you have all 6 agents around the board and no disguise cards left in the middle, you have been captured. Down the side there are 6 slots for the items you will need to make your phone to phone home. And these are our 3 disguise cards. You can see E.T hiding amongst the stuffed toys, E.T dressed as an old lady, and E.T as a ghost. And then we have our 6 ugly tokens, which are used to track how much of the phone we have built. Then you have your hand of action cards. You will be using these to manipulate the movie deck. And finally we have our movie deck. This deck comprises agent cards in the 6 different colours, cards that will advance your pawn down the track, and also the 6 items you need to complete your phone. And the idea of this game is it's a deck manipulation game, so you need to sift through this movie deck to find the items you need. I think when playing this, the game that immediately springs to mind is Onarim, except Onarim is really good and this game isn't. This game isn't really designed for solo play, it's designed for at least 2 players, so for this playthrough I'm going to be dealing up 2 hands of cards and I'll be alternating between the 2. And to start the game, each player has 4 cards from the action deck. So I'm going to keep the hands of cards out of shot just to keep things a little bit tidy, but I will show you each card as I play it and talk through what's going on. But before we get started, I have to reiterate, the rules for this game are appalling and I'm not entirely sure I am playing correctly. The rules of the game state that when you play an action card, you have to play the icons on each row from left to right. And it's not quite clear whether you treat each row separately and resolve the actions on each row completely before moving to the next row, or whether you resolve everything on the card from left to right. That may not exactly make sense, but it does matter for the sequencing. It determines when cards are played, because when you draw cards from a deck, you don't play them immediately. In fact, the rules never ever say when you play the cards. It says when you draw them, it says when you can put them back, but it doesn't say when you play them or even in which order they should be played. As we go through the game, I will go into that in a little bit more detail. For now, we can see that player A, the player on the left of the screen, has picked this radar card to play. And we can see there are 4 icons on it. And I'm going to play in this playthrough that we resolve all of the icons and then play the cards at the end. So if we look at this card more closely, we can see there are 4 icons. The first icon means we have to flip the top card of the action deck so that everybody can see it. The second icon says we have to place the card we have drawn either at the top or the bottom of the action deck. And then the third action is we draw the top card from the action deck. The fourth icon is we move the meeple on the track, and then the card has been resolved. First, we flip the top card of the action deck. It's a green agent card. If we were to draw that card from the deck and have to play it, we would have to place it over here on our tracker board, and that is a problem for us because we don't want agents. What we can do, as we have drawn the radar card, is we can place that card to the bottom of the deck. And now we resolve the third icon on our action card, which is to draw the top movie card. And we have drawn a blue agent. We will have to play this because there are no other icons that allow us to discard it or move it. We move on to the fourth icon on our action card, which is to advance the meeple. And now, having resolved all of the icons on my action card, I will play any movie cards that are still out. And that means we have to place our blue agent on our tracker board. Remember, if at any point we have all 6 agents on that board and we have no disguise cards left on that board, we have lost. We now discard the action card we have played and we draw back up to 4 cards in our hand, and play proceeds to player B. Player B has another one of these radar cards, so we're going to play that one. As before, we flip the top card of the movie deck. It's a red agent, which we don't want, so we're going to push that to the bottom of the deck. We then draw the top card of the movie deck, and this is our turntable. This is one of the 6 items we need to win the game. However, before we do that, we have to advance our meeple 1 space. And you will notice that the next space on the tracker for the meeple shows an icon that you have to draw another movie card. So we advance the meeple 1 space, we draw another movie card. It's a yellow agent card. And now we have resolved all of the icons on our action card, we resolve the cards in play. And again, it doesn't say in the rules that you resolve these cards right at the very end of your action turn, but it just makes the most sense to do it then. It also doesn't say that you have to resolve them in the order you pulled them, but again, that is how I play the game. So first of all, we resolve our turntable card. That means we discard it to the discard pile of the movie deck, and we can place the relevant token on our tracker board. Here's that token as a reminder. But unfortunately, we also drew that yellow agent card, so that gets placed on our tracker board as well. And then we discard our action card and draw back up to 4. Player A is now going to play this search card. And this is where things get a little bit tricky because the sequencing of the cards becomes even more important. And with that lack of information in the rules book, there's no real way of knowing if you're doing it exactly correctly. But first of all, we have to draw 3 cards from the movie deck. We then draw another 3 cards from the movie deck. We then have to place 3 cards back on the top of the movie deck in any order, and I guess that's from any of the 6 cards we have drawn. We then have to draw the top card of the movie deck, then we move our meeple, and then we resolve the cards. Unless, of course, we should have resolved the cards earlier. So we draw 3 movie cards. We then draw another 3 movie cards. We have drawn 3 agents, 1 card that advances the meeple, and 2 of the items we need to complete our phone. We now have to pick 3 cards to put back on the top of the action deck in any order. So what we need to do here is we need to try and make it so that the cards we have sitting at the top of the deck are ones that the next player can discard if possible. And player B does have a card in their hand that looks like this. This card lets you take the top card from the movie deck and place it on the bottom. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that when it's player B's turn, that orange agent card is at the top, because then player B can discard that to the bottom. So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to keep the 2 items that we used to build our phone. We are also going to keep the advance the meeple card. That means the 3 agents are going to go back into the top of the deck. And we're going to place them back in the deck in this order: purple, orange, purple. And that is because the next icon on our card is to draw a card. So we will have to draw that purple agent and put them in play. And then it will go over to player B's turn and they can discard the top card, which will be our orange agent. Now, before we move on to the next icon on our action card, I just want to reiterate again the problem with not specifying the order of operations for a card game, because we now have 3 cards in play. I drew them in the sequence of the search card and then these 2 item cards. Do I have to play them in that order? This can make a difference. For example, if you are right at the bottom of the track and your next move is going to discard your last ET disguise card, which would lose you the game, it makes a difference whether you have to play that movement card before you play your item cards. Furthermore, as the rules don't specify if you immediately win as soon as 6 items are in play, you don't know if you have to complete your turn or not anyway. It's all a little bit confusing, but let's assume we have to play these cards in that order. So we'll rearrange them accordingly so we remember. We now complete our next icon, which is remove the top card from the movie deck. And of course we know it's that purple agent. The last icon on the card is to move the meeple. We move onto the red space on the tracker. Now those colored agent spaces are a problem if you have the correct colored agent in play. For example, the next time we move the meeple, if the red agent is in play, we have to follow the little arrow down, and that takes us directly to one of the spaces where we lose our first ET disguise. We have completed all of the icons on our action card, so we now step through these movie cards. The first movie card advances our meeple 1 space. We have advanced the meeple onto the draw movie card space, so we have to draw another movie card. And of course it's that orange card, because I didn't look at the tracker in advance. I didn't take into consideration that we would have to draw an extra card here. So my clever scheme of putting this orange card second in the deck didn't work out. I should have put it third in the deck. Oh well. But anyway, we get another 2 items for our phone. We get the can and the umbrella. And then our purple and orange agents will go to the agent board. We discard our action card and draw a new one. For player B, we're still going to play this card because we know we're moving a purple agent to the bottom, but it's not really a problem. If you draw an agent that you already have in play, you just discard that agent. So following through the icons, we draw the top card. It's our purple agent. That purple agent goes to the bottom of the deck, and then we advance our meeple 1 space. That ends our turn, so we draw back up to 4 cards. Player A has another one of these big search cards, but it is different to the last search card. The numbers are different. You draw 2, then 3, then put 2 on the top of the deck, and then draw 1. So it's important to keep note of those numbers and to make sure that you are doing the right thing each time. The icons are a mess. We draw 2. It's the walkie-talkie and the green agent. We then draw another 3. It's a whole bunch of agents, but they are all agents that are already in play except for green. So we're going to try and do what we failed to do last time by positioning the green in such a way so that player B can move it to the bottom of the deck. That means we will keep the walkie-talkie and we will keep any other 2 agents, it doesn't matter. And then we will place 1 agent at the top of the deck and then the green agent second in the deck. So here's how we're going to do it. We've got blue and then green. We now have our 3 cards that we're going to play, but before we do that, we have to do the next icon on our action card, which is to draw the top card of the movie deck. And yes, it doesn't make any sense that it makes you put 2 cards back on the top of the deck and then immediately draw 1 back. I don't understand it, and I feel constantly like I am overlooking or missing something blatantly obvious with this game, some major rule that makes it all make sense, because it just doesn't. Anyway, We advance our meeple and we are advancing onto the first space where we lose one of our disguise cards. The top disguise goes to the discard pile. Having completed all of our icons, we then work through the cards we have drawn. First we get the walkie-talkie, and then we play our 3 agents. We already have agents of all of those colours in play, so those cards are just discarded. That finishes our turn, so we discard our action card and draw back up to 4. It's player B's go, and we know that the top card of the movie deck is something we don't want, so we are going to play another one of these. We draw the top card from the movie deck. Yep, it's a green card, we don't want it. That now goes to the bottom of the deck. We then advance our meeple 1 space, and because we have landed on a draw movie card space, we have to draw a movie card. It's an orange agent. We already have orange agents in play, so we just discard the card. We discard our action card and draw back up to 4. It's player A's turn, and we have another one of these radar cards. We reveal the top card of the movie deck. It's a yellow card that we already have in play, so we have a choice here. We can leave that at the top, knowing that the next card we reveal isn't going to hurt us, or we can put it to the bottom of the deck, which just means we can advance through that deck at a faster pace, and we might as well do that. We now draw the top movie card, and unfortunately it is a red agent, so that has to go onto our agent board, and we are getting very close to losing. But before we place that card, we have to move the meeple. The meeple is advanced onto the yellow agent space, which means the next time it moves, it will use the shortcut and we will lose our second disguise. The agent goes onto the agent board and we discard our action card and draw back up to 4. It's time for player B to activate, and player B has some interesting cards. Player B has 2 of these identical flower cards, and the first icon on these cards states that you can only play one of these cards if you have another card exactly the same in your hand. It doesn't say that you play them both together, you still just play one, but you have to have 2 of them in order to play one. And because it seems like a pretty powerful card, that's what we're going to do. We have to draw 3 cards from the movie deck, and unfortunately this is a really bad pull for us because we have to put 2 of these cards to the bottom, and 2 of them are the items we need to complete the game. So we're going to end up putting one of the items that we need at the bottom of the deck that's left, and that will probably cost us the game. So we're going to put the blue agent and the coat hanger to the bottom of the deck. And then we have to draw 1 more card. We advance our meeple and we have to use the shortcut, which will cost us a disguise. And then we resolve our cards. We add the radio to our board and the orange agent is discarded. We really now just need to sift through the deck as quickly as possible to see if we can get down to that coat hanger. So there we go. Our super powerful flower card has probably cost us the game. Well worth playing. Player A has a handful of rubbish, so player A is going to play this Search Dogs card. We get to draw 2 action cards. Note the light blue on the icon rather than the dark blue we have been seeing up until now. We get to add these 2 cards to our hand. We then have to discard 1 card from our action hand. We'll discard this one. And then we have to draw the top card of the movie deck. And it's a green agent. It's our last agent. If we lose our final disguise before we can get the coat hanger, it's game over. But first we advance our meeple. We have landed on the space, that means we have to draw another movie card, so we do that. And it's one of those movie cards that means we have to advance again, hastening our demise. First we put the green card to the top, then we advance the meeple, and then we discard our cards. We are now in a position where we just need to sift the deck as quickly as possible. To that end, player B is going to play this search card. We draw 2 movie cards, and then we draw 3 more. And we get to put 2 to the bottom. We definitely want to put the magnifying glass that moves us on a space to the bottom, and the rest it doesn't really matter at all. So those 3 cards will be played and they will all be discarded because we have all those agents in play. Before we do anything else though, we have to draw another movie card, and it's another green agent. We advance our meeple 1 space. We discard all of the agent cards. I think we're looking at a loss here, and it will actually be my first loss ever. So of course, naturally I'm doing it on camera. But player A has one of these weird combo cards that probably cost us the game, where you have to have 2 cards the same in order to play one. So we're going to do that. The first icon means we get to pass another player one of our action cards. We're going to pass this one. Next we put 2 cards to the bottom of the deck, and as I understand it, that means we have to put them to the bottom without looking at them because we haven't drawn them from the deck first. Normally it would say draw cards, then put so many of them back. Having the icon to say put them back before you've drawn them implies you just take 2 off the top and put them at the bottom. But again, who knows for sure. Next we draw the top card from the movie deck, and it's a blue agent. Next we have to move our meeple, and we have to move by the shortcut. And this is really interesting because we move on to a symbol that is not explained in the rules book at all. There is one symbol on this tracker which just isn't explained. Looking at the iconography, I think it means you shuffle the movie discard pile back into the movie deck. So that pretty much is game over for us. But I mean, it could just mean shuffle the deck. I really don't know. But anyway, we move our meeple. We are going to shuffle our movie discard pile into the deck. And then this card is discarded. It's player B's turn and we do not have anything that can sift this deck. And we have to complete the game before we get to that third disguise card on the tracker. So I'm just going to play this radar card where I flip the top card and I can move it to the bottom if I want to. Oh, that's ridiculous. The top card is the coat hanger, the last item we need. So obviously I'm going to leave that on the top of the deck. Next I have to draw the top card from the deck, but now I have to move my meeple. We draw the top action card. And it's a red agent, so that card will be discarded. Having completed all of our actions, we resolve the cards in turn. I get to put my coat hanger on the board. We then discard the red card, and that's a win. And that feels like the most stupid, empty, hollow win ever. A supposedly powerful card that's supposed to be really useful nearly cost me the game, and then dumb luck meant I didn't lose the game. I do not in any way feel like I have experienced the story of E.T, the Extra-Terrestrial. I never once felt like I was rescuing E.T from the agents. I never felt like the agents were chasing me. I never felt like I was building anything. It's far too abstract for that. But the iconography is messy, but worst of all, those rules just do not explain clearly the sequencing of the cards in play, and that is so important in a card game. It's the one thing you have to nail down. If you have cards that have different powers, if you are pulling cards and then cards say to pull more cards, if you have the option to sift cards back into a deck or shuffle a deck, you have to define clearly, do they resolve in the order they come out, and when do they resolve? Do they resolve before or after you move? Do you resolve each row individually? Because that was something that I first thought when I played the game. I thought you would resolve each row. So any cards you drew in the top row, you would play and resolve before you started drawing and playing cards on the second row. And again, that does change the way the game works. It adjusts the flow of the game, and it puts different importance on the order in which the cards come out. Those special cards where you have to have two of the same one in play, they don't make sense. There's two of each in the deck. So if you get both in your hand and then you play one, you then have a dead card in your hand. There are some cards that allow you to discard action cards from play, but why does that happen? Maybe you're supposed to play both from your hand at the same time, but it doesn't say that in the rules book. It says you have to have two in your hand to play the card. Why does the iconography split up how many cards you're pulling from the deck? Why does one icon say draw 3 and then you have a second icon that says draw another 3? Is it important that they come out 3 by 3? I don't think so. I think it just saved them having another icon that said +6. But if you're drawing 6 and then putting 3 back on the top of the deck and then immediately drawing the top card from the deck again, why doesn't it just say draw 6 and put 2 back? Is it because, again, the sequencing is important? The game just makes me feel like I'm completely missing the point somewhere. And apart from finding a digital copy of the rules that are included in the box online, I couldn't find anything to help me understand the game any better. But really, even if the rules were very, very clear, I still don't think this is going to be a good game. It doesn't capture the theme. It doesn't feel fun to play. The icons are too difficult to quickly comprehend. Most of the artwork isn't really evocative of the theme at all. It's a magnifying glass or a radar. Apart from the 3 disguise cards and one image of Elliot and E.T. flying across the face of the moon, which I think just has to be included in any game about E.T., there really isn't a lot of E.T. in this game. And I just can't see who this game is made for. It doesn't feel interesting. It doesn't feel like there's enough choices to manipulate the deck. Ownerim is a game where you have to manipulate a deck, and that is a beautifully constructed game where you have really tough choices every time. You have those keys in your hand and you need to match keys to coloured doors, but you can also use the keys to get other powerful abilities. But if you use all your keys on powerful abilities, you don't have them to unlock the doors. It's a clever balancing act. This just feels like randomly rummaging through the deck until you find what you need. This playthrough was the absolute closest I have come to losing, because there are loads of cards that allow you to draw up to 6 movie cards per turn, which makes it very easy to sift through the deck quickly. And once you have agents of a particular colour in play, any other agents you draw of that colour aren't a problem, you just immediately discard them. I just can't find anything to latch onto. I can't find anything that makes it fun for me to play. I can't find anything that makes me excited to want to shuffle up these decks of cards and play again. It's confusing, it's messy, it's ugly, it's unthematic, and just a crying shame really, because it's E.T. But anyway, I'm sorry to be so down and so negative in a video. I try not to do it. I try and always find the positives in a game. Even games I don't personally enjoy, I look at them and say, okay, that's not for me, but I'm sure this would be for someone else. I'm sure there's a certain type of person who would really enjoy this. I can't see it here. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm overlooking something. If you've watched this playthrough and you thought to yourself, that actually looks decent, let me know in the comments. Let me know why you would want to play this game, because I have no interest in playing it again. And that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.